You're listening to New Blue Radio. This is your host, Blue. Thanks for joining my program today. This will be my first topical broadcast, and I think you'll see that I'm not afraid to take on any subject. One thing that has been bugging me for quite some time is this notion that you have to be religious, especially Christian, in order to be compassionate. That somehow you are less of a charitable person just because you have a certain philosophical background. I'd like to challenge that assertion from multiple angles. Now, allow me to preface this by saying that I am in no way attempting to defame or belittle any religion or those who practice one. I am not so self-absorbed as to believe that my ideology is superior to anyone's, or that I either have more answers or am more insightful than a believer. Right, now that we have that out of the way, I'd first like to address the notion of values in religion. Why is it that we seem to think that decent human values are only taught because of religion? There are good people and there are evil people in any walk of life. This is an inescapable truth. Thousands of years of human suffering can attest to the notion that religious teachings and upbringing are not without their faults. Why does the fact that you choose to follow a pre-existing moral code make you more compassionate or ethical? Why are your viewpoints the correct ones? Putting aside the notion that it was established by an all-powerful being for a while, I'd like for someone to explain to me how using a Parenting for Dummies book, such as the Bible, makes one a better human being. As far as I can tell, these are merely guidelines. The Ten Commandments, as well as the law of the New Testament, have a lot of practical value in establishing basic moral principles. However, much like congressional bills, the crowns and rings of best intentions seem to be bejeweled with sparkling gems of counterproductive bureaucracy. Love thy neighbor seems such a simple demand, but all too often it is quantified by things such as, so long as they are faithful, or while they agree with me. Personally, I always thought love thy neighbor stood well by itself. You shouldn't add to the Bible after all, lest the plagues and suffrage of the book of life be added unto thee. Paraphrased, of course. This actually leads into my next point. Conditions. Love thy neighbor for a price. Love thy neighbor, or else. Love thy neighbor, or be damned for all eternity, you rotten piece of pulsating sausage. They say that believers are the most loving and generous. But why do you think this is so? Is it indoctrination? They are made to fear God from birth. Not the devil, mind you, not the one who is the reason for your suffrage and malcontent. Fear the one who loves you. That's a new concept to me, but one I will explore on another broadcast. You believers are made to fear the fiery lake of eternal death for not doing what is right. Frankly, if I believed that any evil I committed at any given moment could be my final and condemning act on earth, for which the swift, unwavering response would be a sweltering spot in a broiling pit of despair, I'd probably be far more generous too. More so than I'd even need to be, or anyone should ever be. Listen, I don't know about you, but it seems to me like religions were created in a time when people had very little to do with their lives. Their despair was prevalent. The meek, back-broken laborers pined for freedom of their subjugators. Why wouldn't they cling to something of this nature? What better way to encapsulate the minds of the starving masses than to offer them the security of eternal paradise, especially with the promise of the ultimate vengeance on those who did them wrong? It really isn't any different than raising children. They do what they are told, keep the status quo best they can, so that one day they can grow up big and strong and earn their own freedoms. Many children rebel, and when they are met with retribution, they usually stand down. I have a feeling that if a parent were to threaten to dip their child in burning lava for eternity, the child would be far less likely to continue their bad behavior, at least until they reached adulthood when they could snap their parents' neck for treating them worse than a dog their entire life. Occasionally, I see surveys and polls taken that show religious people in a favorable light in regards to values and ethics. Yes, religious people are more likely to treat people right, they say. I'd love to see what evidence they have of this. I mean, real evidence. Where is the sampling they took to acquire this data exactly? After all, nobody would try to skew numbers in an attempt to further their points of interest, right? I don't know. A lot of baseless facts get tossed around on the internet, and in many cases, when a source is cited to give credence to some of these assertions, they are citing opinion pieces, written by other people with shared interests. I find it hard to believe that we have to intertwine decent moral upbringing with religious discipline. There's no good reason for us to insinuate that people are only capable of good when they have the fear of unending torment breathing down their neck. I do realize that this isn't the opinion of all Christians. Many believers are open-minded. Sadly, they do not represent a large enough majority to drown out the screeches of the extremists. I also realize that atheists are by no means perfect. There are slime bags everywhere in all walks of life, in all facets of reality. But, unfortunately, the extreme few tend to sway large chunks of the not-so-sures that agree with them into parroting their pitiable behavior. So, I challenge you all this day to take on a new commandment. Not issued by me, not issued by God, not issued by anyone. Just an amendment on a pre-existing notion. Something simple, something direct, something productive. And it may be harder than it would seem, but anything worth doing is worth the effort to do. Love thy neighbor anyway. No preconditions, no punishment for failure. We are human after all. Even God says we're imperfect. And this has been one man's opinion. They may not mean much, but I hope that you have found my words today useful and insightful. I look forward to your responses. In the meantime, this is Blue saying, take care and be safe.